Good morning, everybody. It is 9 a.m. Sunday morning time for Lisa's Changing Perceptions with Lisa Efflandt, brought to you by the gracious, wonderful support of Bremer Team, the Bremer Team Keller Williams Success Realty Group. BremerTeam.com, 847-456-6334. They bring families home. Lisa, good morning.
Good morning, Pete. I didn't even get the warning that we were about to be live.
You didn't.
I got nothing this morning.
No, you did, because I was actually late. So I was sitting here talking to you.
I was sitting here waiting for my sound check, and all of a sudden he's like, good morning. What?
Yeah, no, well, see, I had my headphones on, so I already heard you talking. So I did all that on the fly whilst I was eating. Also, I was enjoying the cinnamon roll you brought me this morning. So
well,
you distracted me with pastries.
I'm glad that you enjoyed it. But I was like, oh my gosh, she's talking and we're on the air. So
yeah,
whatever.
Yeah, that's how that happens sometimes.
That's the fine professionalism.
We're professionals. We're highly skilled professionals here at 216.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us this morning. For those of you who are new, welcome. For those of you that continue to come, thank you. I am Lisa with Lisa's Changing Perceptions. I am a self-empowerment coach, hypnotherapist, and NLP practitioner. You can reach me at 216.com as always, and people get me any messages that come. You can reach me at lisaschangingperceptions.com. You can text or call me at 262-573-7055, or you can email me at lisaschangingperceptions@gmail.com. So those are all the different ways you can reach me, whether it be for an appointment, whether it be for a topic you'd like discussed on the show, whether it be for a question that you have that I can try and answer fairly quickly. Please feel free to always contact us. I would like the show to become more interactive, as I say every week, but I do understand that people have personal reasons they don't want their stuff on the air, so to speak. But if you're willing to or want to, you can be a guest on the show. Even if you're not in the area, you can be a guest remotely. Pete can give a link that you can link in, and you can actually be here with me. You can be here with me by voice, or you can be here with me actually on the Jumbotron. I'll even go on the Jumbotron for people who want to link in and be on camera and be on the air here with me if you'd like to. You don't necessarily have to be discussing your dirty laundry, so to speak, but if there's a topic you'd like to discuss and you'd like to come on and discuss it, let me know in advance so that I know what we're talking about. And feel free to come on in the air. I am very open to having people step in and be a part of everything now. I know a lot of people have a lot of questions they're afraid to ask. So sometimes it's that person who steps outside their comfort zone and comes on the air and starts to talk about something, and they don't realize that of the, I don't even know how many hundreds of thousands of listeners we have at this point.
I do.
You do. What is that number, Pete?
You actually now, are you ready? Hold on to your hat here, Lisa. You're actually pushing between 625 and 650 on Sunday mornings. That's 625,000 to 650,000. So, yay.
That's our live people on Sunday mornings?
Yeah, that's been our average over the course. It's taken me like a freaking month to work.
To calculate it out?
To calculate out July numbers. They were challenging to calculate for each show because we have so many shows now. Plus, we re-air shows throughout the week on the other side of the world in the different time zones. But yeah, your show, Lisa's Changing Perceptions, reaches about 625 to 650,000 people every week. So congratulations.
Woo, thank you.
You broke 500.
So there you go. So say you have a question or an issue or something that you're struggling with, and say you come on the air and 1% of the people had the same question and are so grateful you asked. You've reached almost 7,000 people and helped almost 7,000 people just by asking your question. So There you go. Come on in live with me.
And you did that math in your head. I'm impressed because it's too early for me on a Sunday morning still to do head math.
Not my greatest skill, but that one wasn't too difficult. So this morning we are going to talk about honoring all of you. Usually when I have a topic on the show, Pete knows this. Most people who listen all the time know this. I decide what the topic is going to be generally while I'm drinking my coffee, thinking, okay, you have to get ready for the show. That's usually how it pops up. And it tends to be based on trends that come, unless somebody had a specific thing they want to discuss, or I have a guest, obviously. Tends to be trends that come throughout the week, or in this case, 2 weeks. And I'm sorry that I missed last week. I just was not feeling up to it and didn't want to come on the air and blow it or present myself in a way that I wasn't going to be thrilled because I just didn't feel well. But so it's topics that come up. And so we're doing honoring all aspects of you, because it's a common topic that keeps coming up in different ways. But what it is I run into so many people who come to me because, well, a lot of people think I'm magic, which I'm not. So just let's put that out there.
Oh, I'm so disillusioned now.
I know. You were hoping, and that didn't happen. But they say, I don't like this part of me. I don't want this part of me anymore. Well, here's the reality, everybody. We all have a million different aspects of ourselves. It's just truth. Who we present to the public and who we are as a person in the public or in society are the aspects of us that we choose to accentuate, that we choose, that's who we choose to be. But there's a million other little pieces of us. And I see so many people struggle to bury and hide those aspects of them. And truthfully, that takes a ton of energy to do that. So what I've discovered working with people with it is, why are we hiding that? Why are you hiding it? Now, it doesn't mean, I'm not saying that if you've got the rebel child in you to go out in public and go wild. My point is that even when you're just with you, it's like we're trying to hide aspects of ourselves just from even ourselves. We have to understand that every part of us, every good and bad part of us, the yin and the yang, every good and bad part of us is still a part of us. And everything that we have done, whether we be proud of it or shamed of it or anywhere in between that spectrum, created who we are now. It helped us to form our choices. It helped us to develop how we see ourselves. It helps us to make our choices. It helps us to choose who we want around us. It helps us to choose the type of relationships that we want in our life. It helps us to decide what kind of jobs we want. It helps us to decide every part of us. So the good and the so-called bad aspects of us are all still a part of us. And I see people really, really trying to bury the bad parts and what they see as bad parts. And what's happening is that so much of your energy is going towards that you're actually kind of begin to become it. Because what we put all our energy into, what we put our focus onto, is where we head. I mean, that's the reality of life, right? If you have a goal, or even in a career, if you have a goal, you have to put your sight on that, and you have to put your energy into that to start moving forward to it, to start creating that motion that brings us forward to it. So on the same aspect, if we are spending all kinds of time and energy focusing on the aspects of us that we don't like or that we don't want to be, aren't we doing the same thing? We're really creating that to be the most important part of us. And we're draining a lot of energy to where even if we can create an outside that is something that doesn't reflect that, what are you doing in your spare time? And how are you enjoying the life that you created? In your spare time, you're sitting focused on something that you don't want to be. So part of what's been happening is that, and it's part of the NLP, which for those of you that don't know what NLP is, it's neuro-linguistic programming. And neuro-linguistic programming isn't so much the why. It's not the how or why something happened, like what happened that caused us to see or feel something a certain way. It's more the how did our brain process that, and what decisions did we make based on that we can change. Go ahead.
Julie Adrianson.
Hi, Jules.
Says, good morning, sunshine.
Good morning, Julie. Julie's my friend forever. Julie's been on the show before.
Yeah.
She's a wonderful pet portrait artist for anybody who's interested in such a thing. And she's a beautiful person. She's the one you guys have heard me on the air say, I have a friend that I refer to as Walking Sunshine. And that would be Julie. And her and I have talked about this topic a lot too. So anyway, I have clients coming in and they're so focused on regret, or they're so focused on behaviors and coping skills from the past that they're so horrified either will surface or will be seen by someone else, or that they keep repeating and they don't know how to stop it. And what I've discovered over some time now, especially with the NLP, which what I was saying is that the NLP is what decisions did we make based on those experiences and how did our brain process them? And NLP helps us to discover that from the unconscious standpoint. And you do not need to be hypnotized for NLP to be effective. NLP actually does not require hypnosis at all. So for those of you that are uncomfortable with hypnosis, that's another way to do it. And what I've discovered is that when we bring that part of us up to the surface and we allow it to be there and we look at it for what it is, what its responses are, what it's behaving like, what it's doing. And then we ask, okay, what caused this? What made me believe this? At what stage of my life did I determine these things that created this poor coping skill? Because you weren't born with it. Yes, there are some genetic predispositions to personalities, but we have our aspects as to what we do with all of that. Or we have our choices to what we do with all aspects of that, I should say. So we bring it to the surface and we look at it and we kind of break it apart a little bit and analyze what brought it to the surface. At what age did that experience take place? What was your life experience at that moment in that age? Why would you have made that decision? How did that decision protect you? We go through these different breakdowns, and depending on the situation, obviously we flow with it, but we ask these questions. And what happens is when we bring it to the surface, rather than trying to bury it and focus so much energy on burying it, we bring it to the surface and we understand it, we no longer have to battle it. Because when we begin to feel it and we begin to recognize that part of us coming up, we can then recognize, okay, I see why this is coming up. My current situation or the person I'm with in the moment or whatever it is kind of triggering some old aspects of that. Okay, I get that that's a part of me. That's not an aspect that I want to accentuate. So I'm going to acknowledge it. I'm going to know it's there. I realized there was a part of me at one time that felt that was safe. But I, as a conscious adult now with life experience, have decided that's not an aspect I want to accentuate. And then just let it go. That's a lot different than hiding and burying and battling. I sometimes refer to it as trying to, when you're in a store with a toddler who really wants their way.
Okay.
And they're screaming and yelling and kicking to be heard. Just saying quiet or yelling back or trying to hide them or dragging them to the bathroom, does it make the tantrum stop? It really doesn't.
Nope.
Right. And if anything, it may make it get louder because the child doesn't feel heard. So consider that part of you that's coming up, that part of you that maybe you don't want to accentuate or don't choose to be. The toddler having the tantrum, it's just wanting to be heard. It feels like nobody's listening. And the more you don't listen, the louder it's going to become. And the louder it's going to become, the harder we have to work to muffle it, right? Yeah. Because everything around us starts to get affected. And so then when the harder we work to muffle it and that muffling's not working, then what happens? We start to get angry and frustrated. And then when we start to get angry and frustrated, we start to react instead of respond because then our emotions are taking over. Our emotions are becoming too strong. And in that aspect, what do we become in most cases? Exactly what we were trying to bury.
Yeah.
So just accept and allow, who is this? What is this? It doesn't mean you have to physically outwardly respond. We're talking about your unconscious mind being all aspects of you, from spoiled toddler to grown human, all aspects of you that had different experiences and in those moments felt different things, and those things get triggered. It's our conscious decision and it's our free will. People talk about free will. It's our free will choice to decide what aspects we choose to work with, to become, to use actions behind, to be. But all those other aspects are still there. So anybody who ever tells you they never judge anyone, bullshit.
No.
They may not outwardly say something. They may not outwardly cause an action that's harmful in judgment. They may not outwardly do anything, but I defy that there is a human being on the earth that hasn't been in a situation where they judged. And they judged it based on their own life experience and what parts of them were triggered.
Yeah.
It's what we choose to do with that that creates who we truly are. but all those parts are a part of us. I wish my friend in South Carolina, because I talk to her all the time, but she's too shy to come on the air. And we have these conversations all the time, and she is trying to decide whether she wants to go back out into the dating world. And that's kind of one of the reasons this topic came up, because it was actually funny. And it's sad to me that that has to be an actual decision now because of how things have become. Like, it's such an effort now to go out and deal with these situations that she's spending time making a conscious decision of whether she wants to allow herself to go through this, this situation. You know what? Sadly, that's not an uncommon statement that I hear now.
Really?
Yeah. There is no more fate and trust fate and things. It is, do I really want to venture out into this world of crazy garbage and non-communication? And
see that, and that's what I admittedly, I have not been part of the dating scene for 30 years.
Right. So you remember the old days.
I remember the old days, but also I was never, if I saw someone I liked, you couldn't clear a path fast enough, and I would tell you right away.
That's the old days.
Hey, I think you're really freaking cute. You want to go out?
Or, that is the old days. That is the old days when people actually communicated and were out in public. What do you see out in public now? People staring down at their phones, technology, people text instead of call. Not that those things are necessarily bad, but it's become a way of life where people don't communicate. And part of the thing with it is that, and I don't want to get on a dating conversation, although that could be a funny show if I could get her on here. We have some stories. It's the lack of connection in the human.
Well, and in line with your honoring all aspects of you, if I'm going to honor all aspects of myself and another person, I'm going to be very direct and very upfront about.
Because that's who you are. But that's also, you've also gone through levels of self-discovery that many people haven't gone through. And that's where, and technology has allowed us to hide. But when we were talking about it, I said, okay, well, what scares you? And she said, what's the big deal? I mean, there's the obvious, nobody wants their heart broken. Nobody wants rejection. Nobody wants to, I get all that.
Yeah.
But I'm like, what really scares you? Because she's an incredibly courageous woman who has been through so much in her life and conquered so many things. So she's far from, a weak woman who's afraid of much. But this topic scares her because of experience. Okay. And it was funny. She said, because I'm still figuring out all the parts of me. And it's kind of how, like I said, why this topic came up. And I said, why? And she said, because I've learned that there's many different aspects of me. And she goes, I've learned that there's certain types of people that I get around and I get that excited electric chemistry feeling. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay. I said, well, chemistry happens when you meet people. She goes, yeah, but there's a certain type of electricity, a certain type of chemistry in me that brings out, now she's from down south, so she says it brings out my honky-tonk girl. And my honky-tonk girl is wild and crazy and likes to have a good time.
Yeehaw!
Right. And I said, okay, so what's wrong with that? She goes, a honky-tonk girl ends up in places she should not be, in situations she is not grateful she is in. My honky-tonk girl does not behave. And I started laughing. I said, okay. I said, so how do you deal with that? And she said, I am very well of what my honky-tonk girl wants, what she likes, and that it's not good for me. She goes, so when I feel that chemistry, I go, oh, that's my honky-tonk girl. And I know she's very happy, but I don't like the outcome of her choices. So she moves away from that situation. And that was just one of the funny ones that she had said, because it's kind of true. But we all have these different aspects of us. She doesn't deny that there's a wild and crazy honky-tonk girl in her.
No.
She just says that aspect of me doesn't usually take me where I want to go.
Gotcha.
And I don't end up in situations that I'm real glad I'm in. So when I sense her coming up, I say, oh, yeah, I see you. I see him, too. We're out. I'm leaving. But she doesn't deny that part of her. It's still really a part of her. Go ahead. Now, somebody wanted
to just saying good evening from Singapore. Gary has said hello. He's tuned in here.
Hi, Gary.
So, and as long as, I suppose she could wind up in Singapore, but you might want to keep that honky-tonk person in check. Especially in Singapore.
Well, and that's the thing. And it was a funny conversation, but it's really true, because those are parts of us that we know and we feel. but we don't acknowledge it. So she could have said, well, I'm ashamed of the things that I did when I didn't follow my own guidance, or when I let my honk girl take over. But she's not. I mean, but does she brag about a lot of them? Probably not to everybody, but she knows that that's just an aspect of her. And now that she has stopped denying that aspect of her doesn't fight to be seen as often.
Gary says, to the contrary of what I just said, we welcome the honky tonk girl here. So go tonk your hunky over in
I'll give her
Singapore.
your Facebook name, Gary.
Yeah, there you go.
But there's that aspect. So we all have these aspects of us, but part of technology, like we talked about, teaches people to put on this fake facade. We've all talked about Facebook Live. I love it when I see people. Well, it annoys me, but on Facebook that I know the real aspects of what's going on in their life, and then you go on Facebook and they live like this truly perfection life, which is fine, because I also hate when people bring all their drama and puke it onto Facebook too. But it's just funny to me that what we allow society to see is very rarely the truth of all of who we are. And we spend so much time battling who we don't want to be that we tend to really not ever discover who we truly are, which doesn't end up taking us to where we really want to be.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of aspects of me, and I've talked about it on the air before. Sometimes there's the girl in me who loves to go, when I have my motorcycle, I go ride on my motorcycle by myself for hours and play hokey music and just watch the farm fields, and I'd be in peace. And then there's the other part of me that sat in the biker bar and talked about rowdy things and laughed until she couldn't breathe. And then there's the other part of me that can get into a deep conversation that, to me, as much of a great day as laughing until I can't breathe. There's the part of me that, there's actually a video of this. Me who, singing Save a Horse, Ride a Cowboy out loud in my car. They videotaped it because I love that. That song just that brings out the laughter, wilder, whatever part of me you want to see. And then there's the one that likes old, sappy love songs from whenever. These are all just different aspects of our personality. They're all different parts of us. They're all different things that we like. There's, I have a very old school 16-year-old sentimental, romantic, flowers hand holding, old school part of me. And some women, especially, and I'm going to say women because that's actually true in this aspect anyway, say, oh, well, I'm a stronger woman than that. Well, I don't know too many people who know me personally that would necessarily call me really weak. But there's that part of me that sometimes needs fed that says, hey, you know what? I like that a man opens a door for me. I like that when there's something heavy to be lifted, a man steps up and says, let me get that for you. Has nothing to do with capability.
Can I tell you that the last time I opened a door for a lady without knowing who she was, I got berated.
Really?
Yeah.
To me, that's sad.
And I just, you think I can't open a door for, whoa, I was here first. You were coming. I was raised to open the door for a lady. My mistake. Sorry. I'll go in. You can catch the door yourself. Well, and that's the last time I did that for someone I did not know.
Oh, see, and to me, that's sad because that ruined it for a whole lot of people who find that to be the utmost of respect. Truly. And it has nothing to do with capability. It has to do with a respect and an honor and an old school part of me. Now, if somebody told me, you're supposed to be barefoot pregnant in the kitchen, I'd be like, really? Let's have a chat. That's not me either. So it's all these different things. And we've created a society that says you have to be all of this and nothing else. And I see people coming into the office and struggling with, but I don't want to be weak. Well, who says you're weak? Weak defined by who? Weak defined by what? I consider you strong. Well, how do you do that? Well, because you walked in this office and acknowledged something that you wanted to change.
Yeah.
That's a strength. To admit we have a part of us that we would like to change, to admit we have a flaw in our eyes, whatever, however you want to word it, that's a strength, especially in a society that says you have to be perfect. In a society that says, if you're not happy, say you are until you become.
Right. Yeah.
And
Instead of if you're happy and you know it, if you're happy but don't know it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So be happy and on the outside and miserable on the inside. It's the denial of all of these different aspects of us. Some people say, well, I couldn't be friends with those type of people because of what I do, because of what it would look like for my job, for my whatever.
I actually hear things like that relatively frequently. And I think, well, then, I mean, why do you do that? Why do you do that job? If that means you cannot be who you actually are, why do you do it?
And what a dull and non-colorful life. You know what I mean? Not to be allowed to just explore and talk to people. Not everybody that you run into is going to be your cup of tea. Mm-hmm. The things that they choose to accentuate in themselves, that might not be your cup of tea. Okay. Fine. Yeah. Let them go be their cup of tea somewhere else. And you have the experience of being aware of, you know what, those are some traits I've discovered I don't care for. Those are some traits I discover I don't resonate with. And then leave it alone. Leave it alone. Unless someone is causing, I will always say this, unless somebody is causing harm to another, let it go. Let it go. Let it go. You and I were talking about it before the show of the people having to convince somebody else that something that they believe is true.
Yeah.
Why? The only reason you have to convince someone that what you believe is true is if you don't believe it enough, and the more people who believe it will convince you. With exception to people who are doing self-harm or harm to others.
Yeah.
So I will always put in that exception. Whoever you are, be proud of all aspects. The negative aspects are as much of the positive aspects as your positive aspects are your negative aspects. There's the balance. Because part of the reason we make choices to be a certain way, maybe kindness over kindness, maybe the healer, sadly, maybe the people pleaser. The reason we've chosen to be those things in most cases is we experienced the complete opposite. We experienced a difficulty, a pain, a trauma, a something that we don't wish to bring out into the world, that we don't wish someone else to experience, that we don't wish to be the perpetrator of. But honor the part that got hurt too. Honor the part that maybe didn't make the right choice. Honor the part that was hurt. Honor the part that cried. Honor those parts too, because those parts are as much of an aspect of you as everything else is. It doesn't mean we have to accentuate it.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean we have to put spotlight on it. But when we spend so much time trying to bury it, hide it, and deny it, we are actually spotlighting it. We are putting much of our time, our energy, and our life into it. If we've made a mistake, own it. I apologize. Here's the words that are seldom heard anymore. I apologize for the way that I reacted to that. It triggered a part of me that had a memory or whatever it was, and I reacted poorly, and you didn't deserve that.
Denise Maple says, good morning.
Good morning. I reacted poorly and you didn't deserve that. That's it. Guess what? The sun does not explode. Facebook does not put out a news release.
No.
Nothing happens. Besides, someone else has maybe a little more respect for you and you have a little less regret.
Yeah. Because
there's no one on the planet that hasn't made a mistake that they don't regret. And if you have a continued behavior, coping skill, a continued something in you that's not leading you in the direction where you're wanting to go, where you choose to be, whether it be the job that you want, the relationship that you want, whether it be friendship, romantic, work, parent, child, whatever it is. If it's not leading you where you're wanting to go, if it's not a part of a positive outcome that you're looking for, don't deny that part of you. What part of me was kept safe at some point using this coping skill? What part of me, when did I start to do this coping skill? What part of me felt, I should say, at some point that this was the best response to these situations?
Yeah.
Because when we can bring that up and we can see it for what it is, we can analyze it for what it is, we can realize what it is, we can acknowledge what it is. And then most of the time, what I've discovered is that people will discover that at the time that that decision was made, it actually was not a poor decision based on the current life experience that they had, based on the situation they were in, based on the options that they had been shown in life at that point. And it stuck because our unconscious mind will always revert back to what has saved me in the past in this situation. So until we go in and see what caused that decision, understand it, and then break it down and then make the conscious choice of, okay, I see why that helped me. I see where that protected me. I see where that worked, and I see why I made that choice. Now I realize with more life experience that that choice doesn't bring me to where I want to go, and that choice hasn't been beneficial to where I want to go. Mm-hmm. And I am an adult now, or older now, whatever it is, with more life experience, and I can choose to change what that is. It doesn't mean it will never rear its head again. It doesn't mean you'll never get the urge or the desire again, but it means that you've now been self-empowered to realize that it's there, to acknowledge what triggers it, and to choose not to follow it.
Yeah.
It is like taking sandbags of weight of burden off your own shoulders. Sandbags weight of burden. And you don't have to go around telling every single person all your business like I do. It just happens to be who I am and what I'm like. And then truthfully, part of even on that aspect, part of that comes from feeling ashamed of so much for so many years. And then finally realizing, wait a minute, why are you feeling this shame about these things? Why are you focused on the shame rather than the conquer? Well, where did this come from? What part of you thinks that the shame is more important than the conquer? It's evaluating those types of things. And here's what's funny. I just had this conversation because somebody said, are you an introvert or an extrovert? Both.
Okay,
it is completely possible to be both. When I'm here in the air, people would probably think I'm outgoing, I'm outspoken, and oh my God, she has no fear, blah, blah, blah. Put me in a situation I'm uncomfortable and I don't know anybody. I am a wallflower. Well,
I know that on Friday mornings, and only you at the moment know what I'm talking about, that when you first came, you were relatively quiet, but then, within a few weeks, you were like right in there with the rest of them. Once you got a little comfortable. Yeah.
But yeah, I am very shy when it comes to trying new things, meeting new people. And now put me in an environment where the topics that I feel educated, the topics that I feel experienced on, the topics that I feel passionate about are talked about, game on. That's my comfort zone. Put me in a situation where I don't know anybody and I'm not well versed in what's going on around me. I am a wallflower. I don't want part of it. And we can be both because there's still, even though I've conquered a lot of things and I'm outspoken and I'll no longer be pushed in a corner, so to speak, and told that I'm not of value. There's still a little girl in me that says, are you sure? Are you sure you're not? Are you sure that you're good enough for that? Are you sure that you deserve that? She still speaks. She still speaks. But it's my now conscious decision to say, okay, I see her. I know why this is bothering her. I know why this makes her uncomfortable. But we've conquered that. So I'm going to acknowledge, I see why she's uncomfortable. But we're going to decide to do this anyway. We're going to decide to conquer this too. It doesn't mean she's not there anymore. And I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and she was having a bit of a crisis, and she was, for whatever reason, right now astrologically, and we won't get into all that, it's a very karma bringing up astrological time right now. And she was bringing up a part of her life that happened. I don't remember how long ago it was now. I want to say 8 or 10 years ago now. And I said, well, what was going on with that person that you did those things that you're so angry and ashamed of now? And she said, I don't know. I killed her. You did?
Oh.
I said, well, I understand your concept, but you didn't, because she's coming up and rearing her ugly head. You might have ignored her, blocked her, locked her in the closet. You might have done all those things, but she's rearing her ugly head now.
She's got a bit of a Jasonette going on there.
Right. We can't kill an aspect of ourselves. It's still an aspect of ourselves. I said, you've denied her. And for whatever reason, what's going on in your life now? Because now she's speaking up again. Now something's coming up again. Now something's bringing this up again. Because if it happened that long ago and now for some reason it's really strong and you're this upset about it, there's a reason it's surfacing. There's a reason it's trying to come up and be heard. And she said, no, I killed her. I'm not going to do that. I said, okay. Maybe 2 days later, and sometimes that's all it takes is the stimulation of the seed planted in the food thought. 2, maybe 3 days later, I don't even know if it was that long, 2 days probably, she called me. She's like, oh my gosh, I woke up this morning sobbing. And I said, why? And she said, I realized all the things that were happening in my life at that time. I understand now why I made those choices. Wow. I see where I was at. I see where my person was at. I see what I thought I was trying to prove there. She says, I was in so much pain, and I was trying to prove to myself that I was something that everybody else wanted me to be. And not the little parts of me that felt shame, guilt, fear, typically at the stirring pot. When you stir the pot, those are usually the things that start to surface. And I said, and how do you feel now? And she said, I feel sorry for her, but not in the victim way. In the, God, she was in a lot of pain. And I see where she thought that would help. And I said, did it help? And she said, not at all. I said, okay, so what now? She goes, so I know not to do that again, that doesn't help. But I'm no longer angry that I tried it, because now that I saw it this way, it made sense. Perfect.
Wow.
Perfect. That's all it takes, is these aspects of us are all a part of who we are. Every mistake we've ever made and every victory we've ever had are equally as valuable in your life and who you are. It's a matter of what you choose to focus on. And I don't mean deny. That's where I struggle with the whole love and light thing, to deny aspect. Because we've had this talk before. Yeah. Denise will know what I'm talking about. When people, I am never, ever in my ego. Okay. Just the fact that you feel that superior says you are. So would we like to have this conversation or no?
It is extraordinarily difficult to step out of your ego,
because your ego is valuable. Your ego has a yin and a yang.
Extremely difficult to do that. But by the way, we do have someone on YouTube. Their YouTube name is BEM, BEM channel, but they've typed comments in a language I do not understand. So I will just say swirly scroll line, swirly scroll to you. And I hope that is a good thing and that you're having a wonderful day. And thanks for joining the show.
And real quick, Pete, just because that got brought up, can you please announce how somebody can watch live on YouTube if they are not a Facebooker?
I certainly can. You can go to youtube.com/C/216thenet. And I'll actually put that up here for you. We'll put up the link if you're not a YouTuber, but you're on Facebook, and we'll get that up. But that's how you get there, and then give us a like. And well, look at this. Here, Gary from Singapore says that the BEM channel says he's from Thailand. That's Thai script. Well, there you go.
Thank you, Gary.
That's awesome.
Gary's now going to be our studio interpreter.
Yeah, for Thailand and Thai script. So wonderful. That's really very cool.
And I'm going to put out a request for everybody who's listening or everybody who is on Facebook. I'm going to put out a request. If you could please take that YouTube link, not that you're fine with watching Facebook Live, but if you could please take that YouTube link and share it on your Facebook page to share the show and the station's YouTube, I would be incredibly grateful just to take a moment to do that. That's a lot of advertising for us that it spreads like wildfire. Obviously, you're one person, granted, listening, but if you have 100 friends on your list that are all seeing that YouTube, that one of those takes it, and so on and so forth. And that's how we spread it, and we help the station to grow. So I'm going to put out a personal request that if you are on Facebook and you can take that YouTube link and put it on your Facebook page to share the show via YouTube, that would be terrific. There's many shows on the station that people may want to see, not just mine, although let's focus on mine and put the spotlight on it. But
yeah, you're front and center right now.
There are many shows on the station. So I'm going to put out a personal request to anybody listening. If you could please take that YouTube link and share it on your Facebook page. And if you shared it more than once and shared it in your story, I would be even more grateful. I'm going to put out that request today as we do that.
Thank you.
So where was I now? What was I talking? Oh, ego.
Ego.
So ego has a yin and a yang. And here's the funny part to this. When I have this argument with love and lighters all the time.
Okay.
First off, again, if you're so arrogant to believe that you don't live in ego, that's your ego saying that you're that superior. Boing, done. There you go. Secondly,
superior. Yeah.
That's probably the dark side of your ego in a way, because that's the arrogance of the ego. Secondly, if you decided at some point that something about you needed to change, and so you went on a path of search to find what to change in that, and your ego was part of what you discovered, your ego wanted you to be a better person too. Your ego is what said, hey, I want to be a better person. I don't like this aspect of myself. I want to go this route. So ego has yin and right. It's there for the negative and the positive. It's no different than it's no different than the unconscious mind. It's no different than every other aspect of us. There is negative and positive qualities in everything we do. Everything we do. Even when if you say, oh my gosh, I have a dream and I want to do, Pete, I'm going to use you as an example. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So let's say Pete has a dream that he wants this radio station to become huge. Okay. He wants it to be his full-time gig, his life's dream. It's everything he always imagined. It's the wonderful everything he always imagined. It's bigger than he even dreamed of. And he's so proud of himself because he worked blood, sweat, and tears. Pete puts a lot of hours into the station, just so you guys know, a lot of hours. Pete, once Kent. You get there, Kent too. We'll give Kent a little bit of credit, but Kent's head gets big really fast. Kent's other side of ego gets really big really fast. So we're going to be careful with Kent. So I'm just kidding, Kent. I love you. Once you get there, Pete, imagine you're there. Okay. It's all happened. It's all become it. Along the way, did you make mistakes?
Oh, yeah.
Along the way, did you maybe have to battle some arrogance or catch yourself becoming arrogant and cocky because of how quickly it was growing?
Yeah, a little bit. Okay.
Along the way, did you maybe do some things you're not super proud of because you're like, oh my God, that was really a dumb move?
Yeah.
Along the way, did you burn some bridges that maybe you shouldn't have just because you were in a rushed mood?
Maybe. I'm a fairly intentional bridge burner.
I light that sucker on fire on purpose.
Just to be fair, it's if I've burned a bridge, usually I meant to do that.
Okay.
That's
so
true.
As you're successful and your dream has come true and you're looking back on the path that got you there, were there negative and positive aspects?
Sure.
Did you learn from both?
Oh, yeah.
Hence, which one would you give up?
Neither.
Right.
Because it got me where I want to be.
Exactly.
So.
Our personalities are the same way. All the little parts of us, all the broken parts of us, all the glorious parts of us, all the honorable parts of us, and all the shameful parts of us, all our happy, helping, healing parts of us, and all our angry, bitter, judgmental parts of us. They are all parts of us. What we become is the picture we create with all of those aspects. Because we couldn't create the picture without both. You can't become successful without some failures. You can't.
Is it negative? And I can use myself as this example. I really don't care. I understand what shame is. Mm-hmm. The definition of it. I understand it. I've learned how to recognize what that is. Is it negative that I simply don't have that? I don't experience embarrassment. Like, I know what it is. I don't.
Well, it depends, because to me, shame and embarrassment aren't the same thing.
Okay.
Shame is something that you look back on, and it's not, for me, it's not something you would really want the world to know or see about you. It wouldn't be an aspect of you that you would ever want to put out front and center for anybody to see. It's not an action that you look back on and say, oh, God, if anybody ever saw that, I'd be ashamed that they saw it. Embarrassment to me is something.
What if you understand what that aspect was, but you wouldn't be ashamed? You're just like, okay, I get that the life I have now would not fit in with this, so that is not something that I would share.
That's what all those years of self-reflection that you did, that you and I have talked about.
But I'm not ashamed of it.
Right. You no longer have a reason to be ashamed of it because you understand it.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Because you let go of that.
Yeah.
Because you did the years of self-reflection that we've talked about on the air before, where you looked in the mirror, which sometimes is very hard to do, and said, okay, you are not who you want to be. I don't like who I see in the mirror. What don't I like, and why is it there? Let's change what that is. That's the self-reflection analysis. But truthfully, very few people really do it. They'll do it for little things. They'll do it for easy parts. They'll do it and then deny the things that they don't really want to get rid of. And you know what? Sometimes, and this is hard for people to understand, but sometimes people will hold on to something that they do that causes harm to their relationships and their lives, and it does not bring about positive aspects, and they know it. And what I've discovered is it's because of a fear too great still of what happened before they had that. So in other words, before they developed that, the fear of that ever happening again is still too great. Not understanding that, being aware of it and understanding that you needed the coping skill and why makes you aware enough to face it differently. But the fear can be too great. You don't know. To judge the level of fear or discomfort somebody has experienced in their life, or trauma or whatever that cause these certain things, is not for us to judge. But people will intentionally, I've had people say, are you aware that everything that you've said to me, what you're doing is bringing harm about that? It's not allowing you to move forward. No, yes. Are you consciously willing to change that today? No. Okay. And I never argue it. No. Okay. Because here's the truth. If your first response, your gut response, your unconscious response instantly is no, then you're not ready to. Something hasn't risen up in you that has made that desire to change greater than the fear of what it felt like before you had it, or the fear of what happened before you had it. And it's just that they're incapable. Are there people who are just spitefully mean with intention?
Yeah.
Yes. And then do we have to tolerate their shit? Absolutely not.
But you can certainly entertain yourself with it.
But the truth is,
I have admittedly done that.
The truth is,
with people who are that way.
The meaner someone is, the greater their fear that lies below it. It's just my discovery. The greater their fear that lies below it. I know some people who are actually very kind, soft, and true empaths. I find that to be a lot of the case. Who to the outward public are mean, crabby, hateful people. I know them personally. I've spent time with them. I've known them for many years. No, they're not. But there's a part of them that discovered that if they brought out the mean, cranky, hateful aspects of self, the soft, gentle, loving aspect didn't get hurt. People backed away. So they know that this intimidation, deep, mean, blah, 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 is not allowing good things into their life. But they're more afraid of what the bad things did when they were soft, gentle, and kind. And that's where the whole judgment thing comes in when we decide what somebody is. Everybody is these aspects of things. Now, just because we have an understanding of that, and this is the fine line, and I find myself falling off the wrong side of the fence on this often, to have an understanding of why someone is the way they are and have empathy for that can cause us to get sucked into believing we have to take a bunch of shit. Well, but they're this way because it's still a choice.
Very much.
It's still a choice. And even if we understand why they make the choice and we do our best not to judge the choice, it is still a choice.
Yeah.
So if we choose to be mean and hurtful, it is a choice to be mean and hurtful. If it's because it's something that you developed as a protective mechanism at some point, it is understood why you're mean and hurtful. But the choice to not look at that and self-evaluate that to make the changes is a choice as well. So at that point, especially when it's recognized, because I know people who it's recognized, I absolutely know that that's what I do and that that's what causes this problem, and I'm not going to stop doing it. Gotcha. No problem. Now you're not a victim. We are a victim when we are unaware of what's occurring. We can play victim, I suppose, when we're unaware of what's occurring and why we're responding in the way we are doing. PTSD, for example, when it's a trigger that you are unaware of, you don't know what triggered it, and you are responding in a way that's not conscious in the moment. Once there's a conscious awareness of that behavior, it becomes a choice when you choose not to change it, when you choose not to do the work to do it, when you choose not to take accountability for it. Once it becomes an awareness, it is a choice. And I've said before, when you choose to bring harm to others because of harm done on to you, you in that moment are no longer the victim. You have become the predator.
Yeah.
And that is a choice. All of these aspects are all of the aspects that we are. Everyone has been hurt, different levels. I get all that. You know, somebody will say, well, my trauma and my experience is worse than yours. Okay, maybe for that situation it was. And maybe there's something else that it wasn't. And you know what the truth is? Who the hell cares? We've all had these, and we all need to deal with whatever our personal experience was. And the moment that we realize that our actions and our behaviors are not bringing us forth in a positive light, but we refuse to do the self-work to change them, you in that moment, whether you like it or not, are choosing to become the predator and no longer the victim.
Yeah.
Period. To me, it's as simple as that. And sometimes all of us have our moments that we're the predator.
Mm-hmm.
We're the asshole.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we have our moments when we're the honky-tonk girl who says, oh, damn, I knew I shouldn't have done that. I knew that chemistry I was feeling was not the one that brings out the good in me, you know, or we make these choices. In those moments, we still made a choice. We can look back and go, all right, I shouldn't have done that. Take accountability for it. Why did I do that? What made me do that? Where did it put me? Okay, now I've got another thing making it even stronger not to do that again.
Yeah.
That's it. Hiding shame, hiding fear, hiding guilt, the fake face of the world saying that, you know, you don't want the world to see these things. They are taking up so much energy that we are actually becoming all of it. Becoming all of it. And I see, you know, like we said, I'm watching the time, the fake Facebook feeds, you know, where, you know, wait a minute, I know you're not happy like that. I just talked to you and had dinner with you the other night. You're miserable. You hated everybody. You know, just honor who you are at all moments and then choose the pieces to put the spotlight on. But to shame and bury is causing so much detriment to so many people and so much energy being wasted in life. And like I said, I've talked to many people that I know, people who to the outward public, they're like, oh my God, they're so happy. They live such a wonderful life and everything's always perfect. And I don't know why everything goes easy for them. And okay, but that's not all aspects of them.
No.
Every person at moments, some may focus on, some may not focus on them. That's a personal choice. Has those moments of self-doubt, regret, things they woulda, shoulda, coulda done. Mm. Everybody carries those things inside of us. And sometimes people work harder to hide them. Sometimes people work harder to accentuate them, whatever it is, a personal choice. But these are still just personal choices, and they're all aspects of you. Every mistake you ever made is an aspect of you. Every asshole moment of you that you've had is an aspect of you. And you can either choose to say, "Ooh, gosh, I look at that and I look back and I'm not super proud." And so you go, in the future, I'm going to remember not to respond that way. There. There. Versus hiding it. Burying something that you did, having a conversation with somebody. And sometimes one of the most freeing things can be is, I remember when somebody did XYZ and I responded with XYZ. And I could not believe that I did that. It caused so much drama and it harmed so many people. And I can't even believe I did that. Right. You can't believe it, because the person that you've become now has learned from all of those types of things. And as you look back on that situation, you can't imagine ever responding that way again. Why? Because you grew and you learned. Because you looked at that situation and said, this is not something I choose to repeat again. I don't like where this brought me. I don't like the person I was in that moment. Cool. But guess what? That was still you. It's still you. And it will always, always, always be a little piece of you. What you choose to do with that piece, whether to learn from it and go, yeah, I remember that guy. Or I remember that girl. We don't like her. Just like my girlfriend I know the honky tonk girl. I think she's fun, but I don't like where she takes me to. So we don't take her out often. we don't take her out on the town often. Yeah. Or, I remember the guy who thought he was better than this or good at this, whatever it is. I remember that person. I remember that person that hurt that person and said those things. I remember that. I didn't like that person. Right. But that's still a part of you. And you chose to take that part of you and go, you know what? I don't like the outcome that came with that aspect of me. And so I'm going to learn from that aspect of me not to repeat that process. But guess what? It's still a piece of you. And it's as valuable of a piece of you as every victory you've ever had. Everything you've ever had. So allowing these different parts of us, to be known and seen will bring so much relief. So much relief. And anybody who's listening who does this, who is at home at night in their own mind, in their own thoughts or what have you, when they're miserable and unhappy and thinking of all these regrets, but out to the world, you are absolutely the opposite. Ask yourself right now, how exhausted are you? How exhausted are you? It's exhausting to bury and hide and fight and battle. Allow yourself to be who you are. And if you don't have a direct circle that allows you to be that, find a new one.
So with about a minute and a half left, how does everybody follow up with you?
Oh, I'm sorry. Pete, you're so good keeping me in line. You can contact me at lisaschangingperceptions.com, lisaschangingperceptions@gmail.com. You can always get me through 216thenet.com, and Pete will get any messages to me. You can also call or text me at 262-573-7055. And you can find me on Facebook under Lisa Changing Perceptions. For those, I have gotten these calls, and I'm trying to find ways to make things more cost effective for people. And for anybody who wants a specific topic discussed or it's something that affects their life, I am going to start offering more group things where we can do it where there's multiple people. We're not going to do hypnosis in group, obviously, unless it's mild or should say intense, like guided meditation. But there are group situations and group things that we can do that would cost down, where we're going to do work with multiple people at a time. Those are events. And if you have a business where you're struggling with your coworkers to get along, cope, and to deal with the current stresses, that is also something I'm going to go in and start addressing on a group manner, is to help coworkers to step back and look at their job for what it is and their coworkers for who they are and create a better, happier work environment. So different things that are available to you. So I thank everybody for coming in today. Reach out to me for whatever reason, whether it be a show topic, a private session, or different groups that are available. Let me know. I'll be happy to answer questions on the air. I'll be happy to go live with anybody who'd like to come on the air and have a discussion with me about what I talk about. And here's the difference. You don't have to agree with me. It's okay if you don't agree with me. And I welcome you all, and I thank you all for coming. Enjoy your Sunday. Go out and just figure out who you are today. Allow whoever comes to the surface and take a look at them, and then see how much easier it becomes. Have a great day, everybody. Keep giving me the thing, so which means Lisa, shut up.